hard to not be a political person these days, even more so since we have Artem from the Ukraine at the clojureUD, whatever you want to. And I would say, without further ado, please give a big warm applause to Artem Barmin, who will talk about awareness.
Thank you for such warm introduction. And my name is Artem Barmin, and I'm a co-founder of a software development agency that specialized in Clojure development. Right now we have already 30 Clojurists. And I have a prior experience in software development, and I'm actually very curious about the problem of Clojure popularity. And I want to, add some external expertise from marketing and product management to a pure development guys and pure development community. So I will start from my story. Why do I bother actually about the Clojure popularity at all? I graduated 12 years ago from the university, already having experience with both functional and imperative styles. And I already had experience with Haskell, Common Lisp, Erlang, and I already know about these impressive features like REPL, image-driven development, macroses, and all such stuff. But when I was graduating from the university, I clearly understood that it's very unlikely for me to find a job that uses such technologies. It was 12 years ago. Sometimes it's the same for the newbies that came to Clojure. So I was really interested. So I decided to merge my interests in management, marketing, and software development, and Clojure itself, and to bring some new knowledge to the Clojure community. In this talk, I'm going to focus on the problem on an instrument. Why the instruments? So you will be able, for example, to replicate the results that we received during our research. If you don't trust us, so you will be able to do it, reproduce, and that's the good way, I think. And why the problem? Because I think that for problem solving, the most complicated part is to define a problem and find the problem itself. And by the way, the Albert Einstein have the same opinion as me, and he would think about 55 minutes in an hour just to define a problem, and only 5 minutes about defining a solution. So the first issue that we found in the Clojure community during our research is the preconception. That's about mental biases. It's about way of thinking. And I think and I believe that without addressing this way of thinking in all of us, it will be not possible to solve the problem of Clojure popularity. So the first preconception that we found during our research is that Clojure is just a tool. So it doesn't need marketing at all. And it's a bad thing to think about the marketing or advertisement for Clojure, because some guy from the internet said to us that thinking about Clojure popularity will not do any good, and it will just increase the amount of haters or fanboys. So we don't need to think about it at all. And I want to argue and address this preconception with such polarity. So the tool versus product, why they differ. And I was thinking a lot about this first specific slide, because other slides are pretty simple, but this one is the most complex. And I came up with the idea that tools, they created for specific tasks. And these specific tasks often exist in the same project, and they don't compete between each other. So we have a clear relation between the right tool and the right task to solve. Yet, for the programming languages, it's not always clear, because there is no such big difference between JavaScript, Java, and Clojure when we solve some complex business task. From experience that I have talking with Clojure developers and the CTOs of Clojure companies, they often choose Clojure just because it's a more fun way to solve the task. It's not because the Clojure is the best tool for this specific task. So, and products are unique, and they compete for solving the same task. And mental cure that I suggest to overcome this preconception for us is to treat Clojure not just as a tool and just as a programming language, but as a set of experiences that have developer while choosing the Clojure itself. That's a labor market, onboarding experience, that's the EDS, culture, that's a community, that's employee loyalty and attrition, even the such HR metrics have correlation between Clojure and them. And I suggest to treat Clojure as a much bigger product. Another preconception that we found is that marketing is actually doing some shitty advertisements on the TV shows and something like this. And I don't know why some people treat marketing in this way. I also was the same guy. When I was a purely technical guy, I was thinking, oh, marketing, they trick people. They trick them to believe that this product is better than other. But in reality, marketing is not about some strange voodoo things and spending the marketing budgets. It's about the communication. Marketing is an art of communication, and it's about the proper communication, the strong point of a product, the address and the weak points with the audience. It's about knowing your audience very well, and it's a lot about data, about the real behavior of persons that use the product itself. And by the way, they use a lot of hypotheses, a lot of scientific instruments in their work. Hypothesis, prove the hypothesis, or it's false, and everything can be based on the data. Another preconception that we shouldn't compete with other languages. It's a bit similar to tool versus product, and it's about that. Competition is somehow bad thing. I don't have clear definition of this preconception, but I hear some ideas of guys saying that we don't need to compete or look at other languages or best practices that currently were used in industry. So the mental cure I found for this is the evolution law. I think that programming language can be treated as a meme, formulated by Richard Dawkins. So that's a set of ideas that transfer from person to person, that live in society, and they can create a new memes based on this, because Clojure have predecessors, and it has probably childs that were inspired by Clojure ideas. And the memes means evolution, because memes are born, they can create another memes, and they will die, and they live in competitive environment. That's why the mental cure for competing is thinking about the evolution of programming language just like an usual evolution. And if we will not think about the changing environment and what other languages are doing to attract some new guys, we will die, definitely. And we actually compete for the attention. And we had an interesting talk yesterday about the attention, about that the most valuable resource right now, it's an human energy and attention that put inside the language, community, libraries, training materials, all such stuff. Another preconception that we found, there is a big, actually, part. It's that Clojure can be used as a filter, and only the person that passed all trials are deserved to work with the Clojure. And I think that some guys thinking that if we make Clojure more beginner-friendly, there is a lot of people with much less technology skills will come to Clojure, and it will be bad for community. And we found out during our research that most of the filtering of these guys done outside of the language itself and outside of the ideas and conceptions that are built in the Clojure core. And the most issues we found was in onboarding experience, finding the right tutorial, finding single source of truth, navigating the ecosystem, lack of clear definition, the wow moments, and hooks that can catch the people that came to us. That's it for the first one, for the first block about preconceptions. And right now, I'm going to talk about the instruments we bring from the marketing and product management that can be used. And that's pretty simple instruments. And you will be able to replicate our researches. The first one is the pirate funnel, R funnel, 3A3R funnel. And it's generalization of the way how the customer interacts with the product. So that's 6 steps that commonly exists. That's a model of usual interaction. So the first step is awareness. It's what we are doing right now. It's making some conferences, recording videos. It's to make people first hear about the Clojure. The next one is an acquisition. It's it's when person try to research more. The next one is activation, when it's the first real experience with Clojure itself, and it's usually a hobby or Hello World application. And the most interesting part that we found in Pirate Funnel for Clojure is that a lot of people that passed to the last one, referral, they became, there is a very high amount of referrals for Clojure. And a lot of people that pass all these things, they tend to become a part of Clojure community. They're very active, and they refer and attract new people to the language itself. That's the slide that described the same, what I said. That's actually mean that the product itself is great, but we have problems on the first parts of a funnel. The CGM, customer journey mapping. It's like a pirate funnel, but in a bit more details. It's about the specific steps that done by a customer, the developer that want to work with the Clojure as a product. And the interesting things that we found is only 18% already started the Clojure from the production project, and 82% actually started from the hobby. Most of the Clojure developers already have previous development and production experience, maybe 1 to 2 years. And the whole test, the most interesting and the simplest one, it's basically the variation of usability test. When you take your colleague from the hall, literally, drag it to the computer, sit down with him, and ask to do a simple task. And also think out loud protocol. Ask to think out loud, basically. And your task is just to hear, to listen for this person and observe, nothing more. Don't give any clues, and because it will disturb the experiment itself. So we used these instruments and we identified 2 issues. There is more issues, and you can download the ebook from our website later. There will be a promotion in a Slack community. And the first one that we found, the big difference between onboarding experience for the Clojure and mainstream languages. So we targeted on an experienced developer with 2+ years of experience. And we think that, and we already know from the customer journey mapping and from the polls that most of developers came through the step of hobby project. And that means that they usually have 5 to 10 hours during the weekend to try a new technology with their idea. That's why we don't have too much time to catch the guy that wants to try Clojure. That's why we have only maybe 1 weekend, and we need to focus on this first experience that have people with the product itself. And also we have a lot of competitors, a lot of interesting technologies like Elm, Haskell, Elixir, and they are standing near the Clojure in this area of hobby projects. So that's the results. This is the time to hello world, basically. The interesting metric that we suggest to focus on, and we see that with Vue and Golang, it's clearly difference between Clojure script doing the most basic task in the world of programming. By the way, 2 guys from a 10 didn't succeed at all for 60 minutes doing the hello world in the Clojure script. I wouldn't quote them. You can read their quotes in the ebook, but that's a pretty interesting language and description of a problem. The other interesting thing that we found that amount of websites usually viewed to solve the hello world task is 2 or 4 times higher to Clojure script compared to other technologies. And that's a clear numbers. And you can replicate this with your friends. They just don't need to know the Clojure beforehand, just to validate, because the guys that we took don't know the Clojure script, Vue.js, and Golang. That's completely blank experience. Okay, that's the first problem, the onboarding experience. The second problem that we found is the no clear wow moments. The wow moment is the moment when the person clearly defines for himself that he will stay with Clojure for the rest of his life. And usually from our polls, that's a REPL experience. There is also a simplicity and way of expressing things and how it's easy to match my way of thinking and source code. But the first one is a REPL. And a lot of guys that we've talked to actually confuse REPL with something like JavaScript console. They said, oh, we already have such thing. And there is no clear definition what is actually REPL, because it's a completely different development experience that's not existing in other languages, maybe in Smalltalk or Erlang, like hot code reloading, inspecting the state, all such things. They are not familiar, and to find out these things, you need to have a lot of energy to read a lot of book, maybe find the story about the GPL when they debugged the satellite near the Jupiter using REPL and such kind of things. But you need to find these stories somehow. There is no clear definition of wow moment on the clojure.org or some tutorials that they found. Another one is a simplicity. It's a bit more vague than REPL, and it's about the way how Clojure is powerful to express the ideas, how less boilerplate exists in the usual development. And that's also not clearly covered in the official tutorials or any tutorials that we found. And the conferences, another source of a lot of wow moments. They just need to be somehow curated, created highlights. Maybe the most interesting talks should be highlighted to the newcomers. But Clojure lacks clear definition of a wow moments. And a solution for the wow moments, and that's basically the last one. The solutions. Make the clojure.org the main point of interaction between developer and Clojure, and borrow some best practices from other mainstream languages, because we clearly see that Golang, Vue.js, they have spent a lot of time and money investing in making the website clear, because they targeted for different audience. If you want to create a web application, if you want to create CLI application, there is example side by side for different languages. There is a lot of things that already exist, by the way, for Clojure, but they are not located on the clojure.org. And that's why people tend to leave the clojure.org and find them somewhere else. Another solution is to improve onboarding experience and focus on time to hello world, or maybe time to valuable results, if we talk about the hobby projects. For Clojure script, this can be done by providing the best practices for libraries, the best solution for the building of application, because right now it's just a list of 4 possible options without any curation, and I don't even know what option is alive, what is developing, what is the best practice right now in the community. The second one is to move the wow moments closer to the start of customer journey. The best that can be done, to move it 5 hours before the start of a Clojure development. So they will feel the power of REPL, they will feel this idea of zero time to see the changes, to inspecting the state. And the last one, maybe the last two, it's about the not hesitating to use the battle-tested instruments from marketing and product management, because it's an art and it's a science about the human behavior. And we can do a lot of, and we can gain a lot of insights just by observing the human behavior and applying these simple instruments. So the key point that I want to say that the solution of Clojure popularity problem is encoded in human behavior. We need just to observe it and to do some stuff that will improve this behavior and their experience. Because a lot of people spend huge amount of energy by doing the talks, doing the conferences. We spend a lot of time, energy, and money in bringing the awareness of Clojure into the world. And when these people that hear about the Clojure, they came, they want to try the hello world, they want to try some hobby project, yeah, they hit sometimes a wall that can't be, that can be solved. I had some kind of okay. That's it. Thank you for your attention, and you feel free to reach me out for the feedback, and you can also ask me a question, so I'll tell the feedback right now. And I want to especially thank for Doctronic for their huge support of Ukraine and Freshcode company, because they were able to make it happen. So I staying right now and talking about the Clojure popularity. I also want to thank Sandra, because they helped a lot while supporting me on this journey from the start to the finish and to this talk, and all clojureD participants for the great conversation with the beer. I really like it. And the Clojure enthusiasts, and I think we can make the Clojure popular and the development experience and the daily routine much better than with mainstream languages. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that. Interesting insights. I think we can take a few questions.
Yeah, first, thank you very much. Really enjoyed that. What was the reason, or have you done this metric first from 0 to hello world only for ClojureScript or also for Clojure on the JVM?
Only for ClojureScript, because it looks like it's better fits to the target audience, because if you're a hobby engineer, we usually work with a web nowadays, and usually hobby projects imply some visual UX interface, so that's why we concentrated also on UX parts.
Thank you. What is missing? Why is this not happening? You have good ideas, like why is this not happening? Do you not have the time? You're going to have the time. Do you have problems like getting stuff on clojure.org, or like what's missing?
I don't know why it's not happening, frankly speaking. Maybe because this problem was not highlighted, because it's clearly, we see clearly that mainstream languages use marketers to create their websites. And clojure.org used to be like the old-fashioned set of guides and references. Yeah, it's great if you know the language already, but it's not great for the newcomers. So I don't know why. Maybe this talk will change something.
On that last slide, you had mentioned using some like battle-tested tools that we know have worked in other environments. What are those tools? Do you have any in mind?
Actually, that's the second part. It's about instruments, the tools from the marketing, pirate funnel, analyzing the customer journey, doing the whole tests with the just guys, and deep interviews maybe, why they choose Clojure, what kind of wow moments did they have. Like polls also, they already conducted for the Clojure, and it's a great source of insights, but such kind of tools.
Replicating that
Yeah.
that you did, but
Yeah, replicate them, but maybe in large scale. Yeah. And don't hesitate to use marketing.
Okay, once again, thank you. This concedes the second half of the day. Yeah, go ahead.